The iPad Air 4 is an incredible piece of technology, but can it really be used to replace your MacBook? Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you could please like this video and subscribe to the channel, that would be awesome. Thank you very much. My answer to the age-old "can your iPad replace your computer" question is yes, it can if you really need it to. Personally, I've found that the iPad can be a fantastic tool if you utilize it along with your standard workflow and use it to boost your workflow, rather than trying to replace your current workflow with a different workflow on the iPad itself. It can be an amazing tool to help you do your standard workflow better, but I would suggest using it the way that I believe it was intended to be used, which is actually used alongside your MacBook. So it's been almost 4 months since I first purchased my iPad Air 4 and really started using it along with my workflow. Today, I really want to talk about how I've utilized it, some of the apps that I've used, a lot of the accessories that I've used, and how that's actually helped with my day-to-day life. So a lot of what I do on a daily basis requires a lot of data visualization, a lot of whiteboarding, and a lot of note-taking. So for all those three things, the iPad has just been perfect for what I've needed it to do, and the iPad Air 4 does it even better than what I had previously, which was the iPad Mini 5. So I've talked in previous videos, in fact I did one previous video on the iPad Air 4 when I first got it, my first impressions, and I talked a little bit about why I like the iPad Air 4 as opposed to the iPad Mini 5. So if you are curious about that, you can check out that video. But today I'll be focusing on the iPad Air 4 and the ways that I've used that to make things better for me. So I wanted to start off today's video by talking about some of the accessories that I found most useful to me. And at the first one at the very top of my list, just because it's my absolute favorite and it's drastically changed the way I do pretty much everything on the iPad, is the Apple Pencil 2. So this is my Apple Pencil 2, and I absolutely love this pencil for a lot of different reasons. So one of my biggest reasons for liking the 2 as opposed to the first generation is first of all the form factor. It's a lot shorter, and it has this flat side on it. It works so much better with my hands than the first generation, which was completely round and was a lot bigger. And so it was kind of weird, but the balance was actually off a little bit when I was writing. So it was very cumbersome to work with. That's also, I mean, obviously the double tap is just fantastic, and I love using that double tap feature. Mainly, I just use that in Notes, Apple Notes, which is an app I use a lot, and I'll be talking about that in a future segment of this video. But I just switch between my standard pencil and my eraser, usually in Apple Notes. But it's so helpful to have to be able to double tap instead of having to go down, find the little icon, switch over to the eraser or pencil or whatever, and then go back to where I was and do whatever I needed to do. So this is number one for me. Absolutely fantastic, and also I love the fact that you can just clip it onto the top. It charges and it pairs that way just by magnetically connecting it to the top. That's fantastic, very portable, absolutely fantastic. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the Apple Smart Folio case. So I have this on my iPad Air 4, and it obviously comes off and on very easily. It's magnetic, which is super cool. So if you want to put it on real quick, that's all you have to do. Now it's on. If I wanted to take it off, there we go. It's just magnetic, which is really cool. And it's super thin, but it also provides a lot of protection for this iPad. I've had it for 4 months. I don't have a single scratch on it. I think I might have dropped it once or twice and nothing happened. So yes, the iPad Air 4 is super sturdy, but this is a really nice case for it. I personally don't take my iPad in a ton of different places, and if I do, I'm like super careful with it. I rarely ever drop it. It's been 4 months and I maybe dropped it twice max. And so because of that, this works really well for me. I really like the form factor of the iPad Air 4. So keeping it as thin as possible and having the case as much out of the way as possible works really well for me. But also, I love the fact that you can clip this together super easily magnetically, and you can put it in a whole bunch of different positions. So you can have it standing straight up, you can have it laying down on the edge of it or on the surface of a table. And the cool thing about the when it's laying down and when it's actually folded up so that you can lay it down is it actually puts it at the perfect angle for me to be able to write with the Apple Pencil. If it's flat, completely flat on the table, it's very uncomfortable for me to write. I used to write like that all the time, and it was just very uncomfortable in my wrists, on the palm of my hand. I would tense up a lot, so having that angle really makes writing on this a lot easier. So the next thing I want to talk about is non-Apple, it's a third-party accessory, which is called the new Lexi iPad stand. And you can use this for a lot more than just iPads, but it'll fit a whole bunch of different iPad sizes. It's super sturdy. I think they even use gas springs, although I'm not super sure about that. But the springs are perfect. I mean, it takes some oomph to actually move the springs. But the really cool thing about this is it's a very affordable stand. And it is super sturdy, but it also has 2 points of maneuverability. So you can adjust it on this spring, and you can also adjust it on this spring. So you have a huge wide range of motion when adjusting and setting the height for wherever you want your iPad to be. So this stand works really well for me. I've tried a whole bunch of other stands in the past, but this one kind of sticks out against the rest of them and just works so much better than a lot of other ones I've tried. Next, I want to talk about an iPad case. And this is specifically if you're someone who likes to take their iPad on the go. Maybe you go to a lot of coffee shops, maybe you go to co-working spaces or wherever, and you need to transport your iPad with you. And let's say you don't want to bring your whole backpack, right? Because all you're really bringing is your iPad and a few cables or something like that, maybe a USB hub. This case is really cool. The best part about it is it's super affordable and it offers so many cool things when you open it up inside. So this is actually the TomTalk case, and I got this in the gray color, but there's a whole bunch of color options that they have. But yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff on the inside, a whole bunch of flaps, a lot of pouches, a lot of places to stick different things. There's a pouch that I like to put the Apple Pencil in. There's also a spot where I like to put my USB-C adapter, a USB-C hub. And then there's a huge pouch in the front of the case where you can stick all sorts of cables and stuff like that, and it's very spacious. And then all the way at the back, there's this really cool pouch for the iPad itself. And on the back of the middle divider, there is this really soft felt divider section, which if you wanted to put your iPad in the case without having a cover on it, that's perfect because this felt will rest on the screen and it won't scratch it. So yeah, this is super cool, and the best part is it's got a hard shell on the outside on both the front and the back, which is really neat. So this case, if you're looking for some sort of case, I would highly recommend this one. I've looked into a whole bunch of other cases, but this seems to be the one that most people really enjoy using and that works well for most people, and it's super affordable. So I would definitely check this out. I'll have all of these links in the description of this video. And last but not least, I want to talk a little bit about the keyboard that I use with my iPad Air 4. I did a previous video on this keyboard, went into actually building it and setting it up, but I didn't really talk much about how I used it. In this video, I'm not really going to get into that either, but I'm hoping to make a future video on where I actually configure it. But I did want to mention it in this video just because I use it with the iPad so often. It works really well. And that is the OLKB plank. So this is my OLKB mass drop plank. And it works perfectly with the iPad Air 4 because if you are on the go and you want to take it to a coffee shop or wherever, this will fit in your backpack. I think I've even figured out ways to put it in the TomTalk case if you really want to. If you don't have a lot of other cables with you and you're just taking this and your iPad and you're not taking a stand or anything like that, then you can fit it into the TomTalk case pretty well. It's tight fit, but it works. So that is an option if you're trying to do that. But yeah, the plank is really cool. If you haven't already, go ahead and check out my Massdrop OLKB plank video. I'll link that up on screen. I'll also link that in the description below this video, and you can definitely check that out. There's some really cool things about this keyboard. Okay, so next I want to briefly cover the other half of my workflow, which is not just physical accessories, but the other half is actual software and actual apps that I use on my iPad every day, that I use for work, that I use for personal stuff, that I use for this YouTube channel to actually write the scripts, to put all my thoughts together, all sorts of stuff. These are the top 3 apps that I use every day for everything, pretty much everything that I do. So at the very top of my list is Apple Notes. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but Apple Notes is just perfect. I have tried so many other note-taking apps, and they are all just very convoluted. There are so many features to all of these apps that I just never touch. And the main features, which is taking notes, writing things down, and adding text wherever I need it, those 2 main features are always lacking in some way or another. So either they're way overcomplicated and it's really hard to do this one thing that I needed to do, or the feature isn't even there that I need. Out of all the apps I've tried, Apple Notes is the one that I keep coming back to just because it works so well. And particularly, it works really well with the Apple Pencil too, because of that aforementioned double tap feature that I talked about before. It's really, really handy to be able to just double tap that pencil and boom, you've got an eraser, double tap again, boom, you've got the pencil that you can draw with. So handy. Honestly, I only ever use the text feature where you can, if I'm on my MacBook or even my iPad, I can click in there with the text and I can just type away. The formatting options for that are fantastic. All that works really, really well, and I love the way it looks and functions. And then also I use, obviously, the note-taking portion. And the note-taking portion, honestly, if I'm being honest, I really only use the pencil and the eraser. I don't even use colors very often. I know I'm kind of boring, but that's how I work. So works really well when I'm creating scripts for videos, when I'm taking notes during meetings at work, when I'm working on writing software and I need to keep track of all the features and keep track of workflows and panes through the functionalities of the apps that I'm building, all that kind of stuff. Apple Notes works really well for that. So I definitely wanted to talk about that in this video because I love it and I use it every single day. Next app is actually something that I just recently, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, started using, and I love it. And I really wanted to mention it in this video because it's one of the rare, it's one of the only apps that I actually use on a daily basis. And that's rare for me. If I'm using an app, it's only once every couple of days. But next to Apple Notes, this app I use on a regular basis just because of how useful it is. So this app is called Miro, and Miro works really, really well for data visualization. So when you have lists of things that you want to keep track of, when you have huge amounts of data and ideas that you want to culminate into one app, move around, drag things where you want them, visualize your thoughts, Miro works so well for that. Their free options are fantastic, so you don't have to pay for it if you want to get all the things I'm talking about right now. There are paid options, but I haven't even looked into those because the free options give me everything I need. So Miro is fantastic. If you get a chance, I would highly recommend looking into it, especially if you work on a team. If you have a team of 5 or more people, Miro works super well, and I even use it for one-on-one conversations with people. If I'm having meetings at work, I'll often spin up a Miro board, or I'll take a meetings Miro board and I'll find a section in that board and use it for that one particular meeting. meeting. I'll drag sticky notes in there about things I want to talk about. I'll move them into a completed column when I've talked about them. I can group things together. I can even draw in there. The iPad app for Miro is fantastic because you can take your Apple Pencil and do some really cool things with it. So I would highly recommend you check out Miro. You definitely won't regret it if you take the time to actually scroll through their features and look at their site. Really, really cool stuff. So the next app I want to talk about is called Focus To Do. And this is an app, again, I started using in the past, I would say month. And it actually works really well with something called the Pomodoro workflow. And the Pomodoro idea is that, yes, that's the Italian word for tomato, which is interesting. But it actually works well with people like me who, when you sit down to do a task, you can get distracted fairly easily. So you have a big task in front of you, and you know it's going to take a lot of time, and every little thing will just kind of pull you away. So this technique really helps me to just kind of focus on the one task and get it done in the time that I've allotted for it. The cool thing with this is the whole idea behind Pomodoro is that you have 25 minutes to work on the task, and then you take a 5-minute break. It's pretty simple, right? It's not very complicated. There are a lot of other things that you can add on to it, and there are some subtle nuances that I change in the Pomodoro technique, but that's the essence of it, is you take 25 minutes to do the task, 5-minute break, 25 minutes to do the task, another 5-minute break, and so on and so forth, for as long as you need. And the cool thing about that is the whole idea is that for the 25 minutes that you're working on the task, you are doing nothing but that task. So you're not answering emails, you're not looking at your messages, it's just that task. And it's crazy how much you get done in those 25 minutes if you aren't distracted. So this app really works well with that technique because it has built in all the features you'd need for the Pomodoro technique of time management. It has a way to actually select tomatoes. So each tomato can be worth 25 minutes or 30 minutes or however long you set. But you can say, okay, roughly how long will this task take me? Maybe it takes me 2 tomatoes. So I will say, okay, that's 50 minutes worth of time. And the app will automatically calculate that and input 5-minute time slots in between each Pomodoro. And so what it will do is you can say, okay, start the first Pomodoro, start the timer. It'll go 25 minutes, and then when it gets to the end, it will give you a 5-minute timer, and you can start that. And then when that's done, pops up again with another 25-minute timer. So it's really, really cool, and it just works, which is really neat. So I wanted to mention that here because it's, again, one of the very few apps that I actually use on a daily basis for my actual workflow. Okay, well, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I hope you were able to find some helpful things, and this was something that will maybe give you 1 or 2 accessories that you were like, oh, I've been looking for that. Maybe this will help me. If you have questions about other accessories that I didn't mention, maybe like what charging cables do I use or whatever, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll definitely try to add that to the description. And if I get a lot of comments with a lot of other accessories that I've forgotten about, I will definitely create another video for those. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the very next video.